Good evening. Don't everybody say good evening all at once. Like,
Good evening.
Hi, thank you. So nice to hear from you. So welcome to tonight's Borough Board. On the agenda tonight, we have a presentation by ChargePoint on supporting the development of electric vehicle charging infrastructure in Brooklyn communities. Presentation by New York City Economic Development Corporation regarding Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza lease in East New York Industrial Building. We don't have quorum from the look of it, but we don't have any votes. But I'll just move on with the agenda, and then we'll go back to see if we get quorum so we can ratify the minutes from our last meeting. So I want to welcome both of our presenters this evening to Brooklyn Borough Board. I'm Ingrid P. Lewis Martin, the Senior Advisor to Brooklyn Borough President Eric L. Adams, so we welcome you. When you come up to the podium, please state your name. You can talk from behind the podium, or you can take the mic out and move around, make yourself comfortable. So tonight's first agenda item is a presentation by ChargePoint on supporting the development of electric vehicle charging infrastructure in Brooklyn communities. ChargePoint operates the world's largest and most open electric vehicle, EV, charging network. A representative of ChargePoint is here tonight and will be available to take questions from the Borough Board members. Welcome, Ryan Backley. Please come to the podium and state your name and title for the record.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Bakley with ChargePoint. Great. So, yeah, again, nice. Thanks for letting me be part of your meeting tonight. As I mentioned, I'm with ChargePoint. I'm a sales director for ChargePoint. I cover the entire state of New York as well as New Jersey, so all of our station deployments that are going in within these markets, I'm involved with one way or another. And obviously work very closely with the city, with New York City being one of our largest fleet customers as well. So today, wanted to do a quick intro into the market, so give some highlights as to what's going on in the EV space right now, brief intro as to who ChargePoint is, and then the opportunities for Brooklyn, and answer any questions that you guys may have. And before I get into it, because I do find that as I do these, there's always different levels of understanding, but is EVs and this concept relatively new for a lot of your folks? I know there's a lot of stations in the area, a lot of discussions going on, but does anybody own an EV, or is this relatively new for most? Relatively new. Okay, great. Just gives me a sense. Okay, thank you. So right now it's never really been a more exciting time to look at this. When our company started was in 2007, which was really before the cars hit the market. So it was some challenges at that point. But as of right now, there's north of 30 different models and vehicles that are available today, with much more on the roadmap. The majority of the auto manufacturers have announced that within a relatively short term, most of them within the next 10 years, all of their vehicles are going to have a plug option, which just means we have to find more ways to be able to charge up these vehicles. ChargePoint, our mission is relatively simple, is really to put charging everywhere, to give everyone access. Majority of charging happens either at home or at work. So you do see a lot of charging going into the workplace as a nice amenity. You leave your house with a full charge, you drive to work, you charge up, you go back, and it kind of keeps out. In an environment like Brooklyn, finding solutions that are suitable for the multifamily community, apartments, condos, and things like that is really important, because they want access to it. Could also be curbside and street parking, which I know Con Ed and the city are looking into these types of options right now, but being supportive of these programs really helps give access to everyone. Essentially, our model is not only do we provide charging stations and equipment, but we really connect the whole ecosystem. So we have a software or networking component. So when you buy an electric vehicle, in majority of the glove compartments, there's a ChargePoint card. You download our mobile app, and you can see where all of our available stations are, public ones. But then also for the private stations, you really interact with the station through your cell phone. It texts you when your charge is fully charged and all that kind of stuff. But we really connect the station owners, the drivers, together so they know where available stations are. And to give a good relevant example is that about a year ago, worked with a local retailer in Brooklyn and put 2 dual port stations in, so 4 charging ports. And I just looked at the data yesterday to see, and it's been just about 1 year, and there's already been 3,200 charging sessions on it. about 14 different people are using it per day. And that's the value of data. You can kind of look in and interpret the data and see how often are these stations being used. So, you know, in just about a year's time frame, you know, you're getting significant amount of usage out of those couple stations. And that's a retail environment. The benefit to that site host is that while those people are there charging, chances are they're inside that facility shopping. Quick snapshot on who ChargePoint is. As I mentioned, we were founded in 2007. We actually invented what's called the smart charging station. You know, about 80% of the drivers in the market join the ChargePoint network. As I mentioned, our cards are in the glove compartment. They create an account, they download our app, and then they can use all of our available public stations. Of the overall market, we're around 74% or so year to date. The network, our network consists of about 50,000 stations across the country. Over 2,200 of them are in New York, about 100 of them being around the Brooklyn area. As I mentioned earlier, New York City is one of our largest fleet customers. We probably have close to, you know, well over 600 stations deployed just for New York City's fleet. We also work with Con Ed, Port Authority, and a bunch of other multifamily complexes around the area. So we certainly have a good local presence here. And this is just, I did a quick snapshot, and these are just ChargePoint drivers. The numbers within those bubbles, I don't know if you can see them from where you're at, just shows you kind of a station, you know, how many people are registered within that area. As you zoom in, it kind of breaks it apart. But I just did a quick 25-mile radius around Brooklyn to see how many ChargePoint registered drivers there were, and there was over 6,200 ChargePoint drivers. So this isn't factoring in people that might not have created an account with us or anything, but just ChargePoint drivers. You know, we have a significant amount within a short. If I put that to 50, that would have probably been you know, more than double. So when it comes to equipment, there's multiple options. So if you research some of this stuff, you'll see level 1, level 2, level 3, or which really should be called DC fast charging. So a level 1 charger is essentially what comes with your vehicle. Like I have a Prius Prime, so it basically looks like an extension cord, and the other end of it is a plug that can plug into your car. It's good for, you know, it has its purpose mainly for at home in your garage, maybe for overnight charging, but it only adds about 2 to 3 miles or so in an hour of charging. What you pretty much see and what you're seeing of our stations deployed around the city is what's called a level 2 charger. That puts on about 25 miles of range in an hour. So we try and talk about it that way because every vehicle, depending on the size of their battery and the type of vehicle it is, they all draw at different rates, but these stations are capable of delivering 25 miles of range in an hour, and then you get into your DC fast charging, which is a different animal. You know, those could put on a couple hundred miles in an hour of charging. And that's another big area of opportunity. I mean, level 2 has its purpose in the multifamily, retail, fleet side of the house, but on the DC fast charging, there's a lot of talk, as you may know, around city locations looking for DC fast charging hubs. And what a hub is would be pictured almost like a gas station type model where you have a bank of 10 to 20 DC fast charging where vehicles would pull up and charge up, and looking for locations where it has a mixed use, because the key to making it successful is having utilization. So having them sited in areas where people in the multifamily sector can use it, as you know, the Ubers and, you know, rideshare folks of the world and are starting to look at converting over to electric vehicles, having hubs for them to charge up. Fleet needs as well. I know the city itself, you know, with their scattered fleet, right now they charge at stations that are, you know, at their charging hubs or depots and stuff, but they do have a need for on-the-go charging, so curbside charging and things like that, or depots. And then also the medium and heavy-duty vehicle fleet is really starting to blow up right now. I was at a meeting earlier today and working with a dealer that's going to start carrying a significant amount of electric vehicle trucks, that's kind of a whole new world that's coming out. But these vehicles need places to charge, because one of the limitations is that if they're doing a delivery from New Jersey and this is a real example, someone based in like the Elizabeth, New Jersey area down by the ports, one of their routes is coming up through Brooklyn. One of the reasons why they wouldn't are kind of like, how do we make buying an electric truck work is having a place to charge when they get here so they could finish their route. So, and we have relationships with these auto manufacturers, so really working together to determine, you know, here's where some of our clients are, here's where their routes are, where can we put strategically placed hubs so that they can use it as well as other people that can use it, and to really increase utilization. So there's a lot of opportunity right now. And here's just a snapshot of some of the pictures. So And a lot of this I covered. I wanted to make sure, to being sensitive of time, that I could address, some questions if you had any for me. Yep.
What is the difference between a private station and a public station?
So a public station would be at a place where everybody can use it. Typically, where you're seeing private stations is if it's in an area where, for like a fleet, for example, it might not be a gated area, but that particular owner only wants it dedicated for their own private fleet. So we could set it up so even though I have a ChargePoint card, if I tried to activate a charging session, I can't. Same thing for workplaces, if it happens to be sited. I mean, in an urban environment, sometimes some of these scenarios are less, but if I was a company that had my own parking lot and I wanted that station designated for just my employees, I probably wouldn't put it on my public map because you don't want other people coming in, and you can have it set so that only your employees are able to activate a session.
So your company is private?
Our company itself? I mean, we're a private company, yes. Yep, so we're a private company. We've raised about $300 million to date. But yeah, a lot of the auto manufacturers are investing in us, so some other energy companies and venture capital firms, but yes. But yeah, private versus public charging stations, that's meaning who has access to it, to be able to choose it. But just to keep it clear is that ChargePoint doesn't own and operate these, so it's the site host that does. So if it's a particular supermarket, for example, they own the station, they set the rules at that station. It could be free, they could have a fee associated with it. We're the manufacturer, and we provide the network services to support the customers. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you partially answered the question. I was going to ask, in terms of the investment, I'm sorry, my name is Richard Flatteau. I'm the chair of Community Board 3. Okay. So you don't actually make the investment in the charging facilities? And how do you decide, or who do you decide is going to have these stations and where they get sited?
Yep, so typically our business model, there are some scenarios where we have owned and operated the station, but our primary business model is to provide the stations to a site host who's going to own and operate them. For example, if it's a customer that's using it for a fleet need, because they're starting, like New York City, for example, they're converting a significant amount of their fleet over to electric vehicles. They need to own these stations so that they can charge up their fleets overnight. Same thing in the multifamily sector, where that particular residence is putting in charging as an amenity because it's starting to be requested, so they're purchasing the station, and then they set the policies and rules, and they do have that ability to charge for charging, so they could recoup their energy costs. Also, part of our job is, and with a lot of the incentives that are available out there, some are flowing through NYSERDA, there's some grants available, and some are for this particular area for workplaces, located within Brooklyn. We have, funded, potential grant opportunities as well. So, we work with site hosts, but they're typically making the investment, and we work with them to
Do you
scope it out.
own any sites in Brooklyn?
Do we own any? No.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge as of right now.
To what extent is the industry...
Please say your name and your board, please. Thank you.
To what extent has...
Please say your name and your board, please.
I'm sorry. My name is Alvin Burke. I'm chairman of Community Board 14. To what extent has the automotive industry standardized on the charging equipment,
Yep, so good question. So for level 2 charging, that's standard across the board, except for Tesla. Tesla has a proprietary plug, but when you buy a Tesla, the adapter that would fit onto our station or other level 2 stations out there comes with the car. When you're talking about DC fast charging, there's essentially 2 standards, and Tesla, so you might want to say there's 3 standards, but again, they have an adapter available. The European and the American auto industry, they've accepted what's called an SAE combo version, and then the Asian manufacturers accepted one called Chatamo. So
I have an unrelated question, and
Sure.
that is, are there zoning implications that you need to address with the Department of City Planning for the commercial hubs?
So, I mean, there's pretty significant power requirements. So these DC for hubs specifically, as you mentioned, I mean, those are 50 kW plus charging stations, 480 volt, pretty high voltage power. I haven't in any of our deployments run into any specific zoning issues, but when you start looking at these larger DC fast charging hubs and just what's involved in those, I'm sure more things will come up. Where I would see it coming up more is for the curbside type of deployments, which really hasn't been done in the city. It's being looked at right now through Con Ed.
have a question. I'm interested in the cost to charge.
Yep. So it varies by EV. So like a level 2 charger for most of the cars are either going to draw at 3 kWh or 7 kWh. And I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with how they get kind of charged for this stuff, but you're paying say 20 cents per kWh. So if you like my car, if I were to plug in, it would cost me about 60 cents to charge for an hour. Or a Tesla, if I was to plug in a Tesla, it would cost me more like $1.40 for an hour of charging. So it depends on how many hours you need to be on there. But it's significantly less expensive than gas.
Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15. So it would cost you 60 cents for an hour. You said a level 1 charge is going to take me around the corner. So
No, that would be for a level 2 charger.
60 cents for what level?
For a level 2.
Level 2.
So that would give me 25 miles.
So 25 miles.
Yeah.
Now, what if I need 100 miles?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you have to be on there for 2 hours to get yourself 50 miles or whatever it is to take your car, but that's how much it costs you per hour of charging.
Aren't you going to be in one of these stations maybe for 4 hours taking up a spot? How are they supposed to make money in turnover?
Yeah, so typically most people are fully charged with it, like depending on where you're traveling from and what the application is, it's going to vary, but like most EV drivers typically leave their house with a full charge. So if I'm driving to work and I live 25 miles
What
from
if you
work.
don't have a house?
Right, so if you're in an apartment, so that's where having access to charging in the multifamily side is really critical for those folks, whether, because not all of them have parking garages associated with that particular facility, which is why they're looking at curbside charging right now, through some of the city initiatives and what Con Ed is looking at. So curbside charging would be a huge help in these environments, but you can use pricing as a way to maybe help get people off after a certain period of time. But we have a lot of data where most people are usually fully charged within an hour or two. And then they move on, and they get notified when their car is fully charged. You can increase the pricing after a certain period of time to help encourage them to get off. So we have tools built in to help manage that, which we've been really successful with.
Thank you.
So it really varies by what the application is. And in an environment like this, you're really going to have pretty much every application, which is great.
Do we have any other questions at this time?
I have a question. My name is Joshua Brown, co-chair of the Housing and Land Use for CB4. My question is from start to finish, what's the process for getting a charging station just as a private citizen? So the process from start to finish, do I pay you a one-time fee? Is this like a franchise? Could you just touch on that?
So for who to put one in a house or in your apartment or what?
To put one on my own property, what would be the process?
Yeah,
from
so
start to finish?
ChargePoint, we're a manufacturer. We don't necessarily do our own installation, so we usually work with local partners. We have a network of installers. So we were flexible, so we leave it up to the site host to determine if they want us just to provide the equipment and they get the install piece handled separately. But we do have that network of local installers, so no matter where you are in the country, but specifically here, we would have installers come out, scope out, see where the most cost-effective place to locate this is and provide pricing on that. Or we can work with an existing site. I would say most of the time, people work with their own electrician that they know, and then we get involved one way or another where their electrician likes to just run the wire, and then we'll come in and just pop on the station kind of thing, because they might never have done one before. But it really doesn't take that long. I mean, lead times on these things, stations on site within 2 weeks, in the install of one of these, assuming it's really straightforward and a reasonable, run close to the utility room, within a week or so, or 2 weeks or so, it's usually with it in place.
Okay, let me ask a question. If you have an EV, an electric vehicle, and you need to have a charge port in your home, how much does that cost to charge?
So we have a home unit. If I can go back. So this would be something that you would put in your own garage. That unit itself starts at $500 and then peaks at $750. Depending, because there's cord length options and things of that nature. So it's it's not a commercialized version. It's still a smart station, so it connects to your phone all via Wi-Fi and everything. You interact with it still just like you would with any other station. And we have two different options to install it. One would be hardwired, so you work with an electrician to get it hardwired in your garage, or we have one where you just plug it in, and you would just have to have a 240-volt plug, similar to what a dryer would have, and you just plug it in, and that's a really great way, because then if you move, you can take it with you, you know? So that makes it really inexpensive.
So,
Please say your name and your board.
yes, thank you, I
You're
forgot.
welcome. It's okay.
Hasn't been that long, right?
I
Joyce Simmons from the Office of Councilmember Inez Barron. Yes, I'm calling because I'm speaking because I wanted to know, does the home units use Con Ed electricity?
Correct, if they're installed within Con Ed
If they're
territory.
installed, so you're using your regular home electricity?
Yep.
And so what would the bill be like in terms of above and beyond what your normal electricity would be, in terms of like for just average normal usage?
Yeah, so again, it'll vary on the car,
Right.
but like what I mentioned earlier, a plug-in hybrid, and it depends on what you're paying per rate, but just for easy math purposes, if you're paying 20 cents, you know, it costs you 60 cents for an hour of charging. So if you're on there for 2 hours till your car's fully charged, then it would cost you $1.20.
Well, just a ballpark figure of what it would cost, say, per month in terms of an electric bill that if you're using it just average. I mean, you know, I know
Yeah, a lot of
it's
it
hard to
depends on-
say,
yeah.
but is it,
And it depends
you know,
on how
is it
far.
$1,000? Is it $100? Like, you know, per month? Like,
Yeah, I mean, so it also depends on how far you're traveling
Right, of
and how much
course.
you need to charge. But if you're traveling within 25, say you happen to, which is going to be a pretty common commute, maybe in this environment where you're traveling, say 25 miles a day, you know, it's costing you essentially 60 cents a day, depending on what your utility rate, 60 cents to $1 a day. So it's rather inexpensive. Where you look at the average gas vehicle, maybe gets around 25 miles per gallon, and you're paying, you know, $3 for that 25 miles. It's a significantly less expensive.
So the electric cars use no gas at all?
So there's different options. So there's some that are called BEV, B-E-V, battery electric vehicle. Those 100% run on battery. And then there's something called the plug-in hybrid, which is what I have, where you have a certain amount of range, you know, say 25 to 60 miles of range, and then if you didn't recharge it, it would switch over to a hybrid motor. And that's what I have, just based on the amount of mileage, because I cover the entire state of New York, so I'm all over the place. So just, if I had to charge it would take me 8 hours to go to all my meetings. But yeah, so there's plug-in hybrids and there's pure battery electric. So there is an option for everybody, because not everybody's 100% comfortable yet with pure battery electrics, but the ranges are getting longer. Like a lot of them coming out now are going to have close to 300 miles of range. So it's getting very similar to a gas vehicle. And the stations are also being able to charge quicker. So, you know, it's getting closer to be a gas station type feel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
No, excuse me, please speak into the mic. He'll pass it to you, thank you.
Irene Janner, Community Board 2. The amount of electric, you indicated that it's okay on like the same 240, I think, that a large air conditioner or a stove or something would operate on?
Right. Yep.
Are there any requirements, and you may not know this because it would probably be a city thing also, to make sure that the line is properly installed by an electrician, because many house fires and stuff do occur because of overloading an electric wire.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure it's the same on the residential side, but I mean, you know, standard electrical permitting is still required. So yeah, you would want to get it inspected and done appropriately and pull a permit, make sure it's all done. So, but knock on wood, I haven't heard of any scenarios like that, but you know, everything's usually done by, you know, in a certified installer. You know, anybody who installs our equipment goes through a certification course, whether they're one of our partner electricians or not. But, you know, we recommend, you know, making sure everybody pulls their permit and gets it inspected. And, you know, to date, knock on wood, again, we haven't had any issues.
Follow up. So you don't actually inspect a site or require certification of who's installing it? You'll just sell it to anybody?
No, we do. No, I'm saying we do. From the electrical side, you know, pulling the permit and everything, but not on the residential side, because that's a little bit different, but on the commercial side, we do something called a site validation. So once the station's installed by, whether it's our electrician or somebody else's, we send a team out there to inspect it, test the station. and make sure it's operating appropriately. All of our stuff's UL certified, so no, we do go back and test it.
No, but you said on the residential, anyone can purchase it. And
Yeah, I mean, on the
you-
residentials is different, that they typically order those online and buy it and install it however they want.
Okay, so no guarantee that they're going to have proper electric wiring.
Yeah, we recommend them working with an electrician. You know, that electrician should be able to accommodate and install it appropriately. They reach out to us if they have any questions. It's no different than if somebody put in a new air conditioner or something like that. You know, if they go to a certified electrician, they should be in good shape.
Two-part question. One.
Say your name, please, and your
I'm
board.
sorry.
Thank you.
Richard Flattow, Chair, Community Board 3. Could you give us approximate payback time for this, if, you know, assuming, say, a typical 20 to 25 mile a day commute? So what would the payback be to recover the cost of the in-home charger? And then the second thing, is this a public or private company?
Is ChargePoint? So ChargePoint, we're a private company, so we're not public.
You're not public?
Yeah, we're not public yet. You know, we have, as I mentioned earlier, raised $300 million in funding. We're the largest provider of these. Have a very secure, you know, funding source. You know that but no, we're still private at this point. And as far as the ROI, I mean, on the public, you know, for the commercial side, I mean, residential, I mean, my car paid for itself after the first month because you're a fraction of the cost in gas. The station only costs. I just use the level 1, so I just plug it into my wall because I get 25 miles of range on my car. I come in, I plug in. By the next morning, it's overnight. I mean, I don't even see it in my utility bill. If I had maybe a car with a larger range, I'd probably get our level 2 station. But most of the charging, what you're seeing going in, is more at workplace. So a lot of people use level 1s at their homes, and then they're looking for the level 2 or faster chargers at their workplace so they can charge up at work or in the public. So if I'm going to the local store, I want to charge up in their parking lot. And not everybody has the mindset of, I need to fill up every time. It's more of a top-off model. But charging from a business owner or a station owner standpoint on the commercial side, it's really more of an amenity. You know, retailers.
For the level 1 chargers, you're saying it could pay for itself within a few months. Then.
Well, I mean, yeah, those stations come with the car, so you don't have to purchase that. It just comes with the car. I mean, but what I save in gas more than offsets what my monthly car payment used to be. You know, so it's almost like a free car. And depending on the model of the car, is there rebates? Like Toyota gave me $4,500 rebate. I also get a $4,500 tax credit. And that's not counting anything else that might be available. NYSERDA has up to $2,000 for a rebate, depending on the model car you have. So there's a lot of rebates right now. You don't pay taxes on the car. So that, you know, and the cost of these cars are coming down significantly. And the leases on them are great too if you like to lease. So it's a really good time to look at it.
Ms. Johnny Granville, I'm chairperson of Community Board 8. I'm just wondering, if we have a situation like we had with the blackouts and like with Sandy, would these charging stations still work?
Yep, so they're tied directly to the utility service, so if the power's out, they'll be out. But for resiliency purposes and stuff, the city has actually deployed close to 40 stations to date that are integrated with a solar array. So they're using our stations, then one of our partners, Envision Solar, has provided the actual solar structure. So it's like a single carport. There's a battery component, like a 30 kW battery, and then the station's feeding off that battery, so it's entirely off the grid. So they recently deployed almost 40 of those around, which, based on the volume of cars, that's not going to support everything, but it's really supporting their fleet needs. But there's a lot of talks and pilots and stuff going around, you know, with solar and battery storage, how to integrate all that stuff with charging stations. But this industry is so new, a lot of that's being worked out right now. But you know, in the most common application, yeah, if the power's out, the stations aren't going to be able to charge.
Do we have any additional questions? Okay, so we want to thank Ryan
All
for
right.
his presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and that concludes our business related to ChargePoint. We have quorum, so we will do a roll call, and then we will vote to ratify the minutes from last month, and then we'll move on with our next agenda item. Keisha?
Good evening, everybody.
We're going to start with Community Board 1. Community Board 2.
Here.
Community Board 3.
Here.
Community Board 4.
Here.
Community Board 5.
Here.
Community Board 6. Community Board 7.
Present.
Community Board 8.
Here.
Community Board 9.
Here.
Community Board 10. Community Board 11. Community Board 12. Community Board 13. Community Board 14. Community Board 15. Community Board 16. Community Board 17. Community Board 18. Moving on to City Council. Councilmember Barron. Councilmember Cornegy. Councilmember Cumbo.
Present.
Councilmember Deutsch. Councilmember Espinal.
Here.
Councilmember Matthew Eugene. Councilmember Brannon. Councilmember Yeager. Councilmember Brad Lander. Councilmember Levin.
Here.
Councilmember Ampry Samuel.
Here.
Councilmember Menchaca. Councilmember Reynoso. Councilmember Traeger.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to adopt the minutes from our May 1st, 2018 Borough Board meeting?
Teresa Scavo, you just can't speak loudly. Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15, motion to approve the minutes.
May I have a second, please?
Second. Cesar Zuniga, Community Board 7.
Say that
Second.
again, please.
Cesar Zuniga, Community Board 7. Second.
Thank you. May we vote all of those in favor? Say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Let me just explain why we ask you to speak into the microphone. Dawn is in the back, and so she can't really look to see who's speaking. And sometimes you may not be on camera, so we need to know who the person is so that when she transcribes the minutes, it's accurate. Because fortunately, thank God, our minutes have been accurate lately. And so that's why we ask you for your name and we ask you to speak into the mic. So please, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So on the agenda tonight, our second item is a presentation by the New York City Economic Development Corporation regarding Brooklyn's Renaissance Plaza and East New York Industrial Building. This presentation will call for a vote during our upcoming Borough Board meeting. So that's not tonight, but that's the future. So please, all of you who are here tonight, please make sure that you come to that meeting and timely so we can have the vote. So representatives from New York City EDC are here tonight and will be available to take questions from the Borough Board members. Welcome Ricky DaCosta, Darrell Connolly, Stacy Yan, John Quinjin Liang. Please come to the podium and state your name and title for the record.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ricky DaCosta, Assistant Vice President in EDC's Government and Community Relations Department and your Brooklyn Borough Director. Here with some of my colleagues tonight.
Good evening. My name is Jin Kwang Liang. I'm the project manager from the New York City Economic Development Corporation.
Might as well get the intros out of the way now.
Hi, I'm Darrell Connolly. I'm a Senior Vice President in EDC's Asset Management Department.
Scott Shostak, I'm Legal Counsel, EDC.
I'm Stacy Yan. I'm the Assistant Vice President at the NYC EDC, and I'm also presenting for the next project.
Cool. So thanks everybody for coming tonight. As Ingrid mentioned, we're going to be presenting two things tonight that do call for a vote. That vote will not be tonight. So I do hope to see you all on July 10th when we actually do the vote. So we're going to start off with an issue that is technically complicated, but a little bit more straightforward. There's a lease for 2 floors at Renaissance Plaza that EDC holds that is office space for the New York City Employee Retirement System, NYCERS, And there's a discrepancy in the lease that my colleague Jin is going to explain to you why we need a vote.
Good evening again. My name is Jen. So today, yeah. Good evening again. My name is Jen. Today, pursuant the Section 384B4 of the New York City Charter, I'm presenting a resolution to approve the proposed lease of the 20 and the 21st floor of the property known as like the Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza, building located at 350 J Street, downtown Brooklyn, that are going to be occupied by the NICERs. And today, so first I'm going to give you a quick overview of the current list and also as well as like the new list that we're going to propose in these presentations, and but also like talk about like the public's approval we have received on this list and also the benefit. And at the end, I'm open for any questions. As I mentioned, this property is located at 350 J Street, not too far away from here. And it belongs to Community Board number 2 and the City Council District number 33. This site is currently improved with a mixed-use property, including a commercial office space, retail, and a hotel, and a public parking garage. And the subject premise include the 20 and the 21st floor of the Office Unit 1 building. It is a 66,570 square foot office space occupied by NICERs. And this site is going to use for the general executive and office space use. So I'm creating this like flow chart just help the member to understand it looks like complicated lease structures, but if you look at, so this flow chart should help you to visualize the relationship between these leases. So let me first start off like the relationship. So on June 19, 1987, the city entered into a ground lease including for the property with the Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza. So you can see the diagram here, and we lease it to Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza LLC and its affiliate. And on June 27, 1996, the ground lease was served into 5 different units lease, which include the Office Unit 1 lease, Office Unit 2, and the Office Retail unit list, and the Garage unit list, and the Hotel unit. So, and on June 27, 1996, the city subleased from the Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza from the 8th to the 21st floor of the Office Unit 1's building, which is you can see right here. So, and those, the 8th to the 21st floors is currently used by the Brooklyn District Attorney as the office space. But at the same time, the city, since they didn't take the entire 14th floor, the city actually subleased the remaining, the 20 and the 21st floor to the New York City Economic Development Corporations, which is comprised and approximately 66,570 square feet of the office space. And then Brooklyn Renaissance got this sublease from the New York City, NYC EDC, and the current lease expires on August 31st, 2018. But the Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza subleased the premise to the New York City Employee Retirement System, NYSERS, with a term that actually going to expire on April 4, 2020. They do have 2 additional 5 years renewal options. As you can see, this is the gap in terms of on the lease term. So the proposed the new lease will from the city to the New York City, the land will go from the city to the New York City Land Development Corporation (LDC), and then LDC will assign this new sublease to Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza. And this new lease will have substantially the same terms and conditions of the current lease, except for a term of the lease which shall expire which go from September 1st, 2018 to April 4, 2020. And this new lease also have 2 renewal options. They are up to August 31st, 2028. And this new lease is also contingent upon with the term of the master lease that you see earlier, which is going to expire on August 31st, 2028. So as of today, we have received approval from the city planning for the disposition of the property pursuant to the Uniform Land Use Review Procedures on May 14, 1986. And the Mayor's Office of Environmental Coordinations also issued a City Environmental Quality Review Type 2 determinations on May 30, 2018. So the reason that we really give this presentation is like the term of this new lease actually allows NYSER to legally occupy the premise without any operation interruptions beyond August 31st, 2018, if NYSER is going to exercise their 2 renewal options. And because NYSERS is the city agency that currently managing all the pension benefit of all the civilian employee, so it's crucial that we are able to provide these continuations that from the new lease so they can legally occupy the premise beyond the current expiration date. So I'm happy to answer any question you may have regarding this new lease proposal? Yes.
Irene Janner, Community Board 2. We're in that building also.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, all of this comes down to the point that the 2 subleases had different expiration dates, and this is just to match up the dates.
Exactly.
Okay.
In a nutshell, that's. So even though it might look intimidating, but this is like the legal structure, and we're trying to like, in a nutshell, yeah, we're just trying to match the lease term of like the nicer sublease with like the sublease between the city and Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza.
Do we have any other questions?
Just so that you know,
Excuse me, could
I'm
you please
sitting
state
here.
your name and
I'm
your
sorry.
board? Thank you.
Najani Granville Community Board 8. I can't read that. And it would have been useful if it had been in the package with the rest of the things. So I know you talked about it, but I just want to let you know for the future, when you're presenting from here, I can't read it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions, please? All right, so I want to thank you very much for your presentation. Does anyone from the, okay, come.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you tell us a little bit about the economic terms? Like, what is the rent per square foot that they're paying? Are there any other economic
sure.
issues?
Mm-hmm. So right now, in the new lease, the rents for the new lease is going to be like 14.72% of like the rent that the city is paying to Brooklyn Renaissance. So which is translate to approximately 1.73 million per year. $1.734 million per year.
So what is that per square foot then?
On a per square foot,
23, 22,
Yeah, if you divide it by the square footage, which is like 66,570 square foot, and that will give you the rent per square foot. $26. Yeah, $26 per square foot.
Are there any other economic terms that you could tell us about this lease? Is there any work that's going to be done, or are they just continuing?
It's just a continuation of occupation of the current space. So there's like no proposed improvement at the
Okay,
space.
are there any escalations in the lease? So once it gets this new lease that goes into effect,
Yeah.
and could you tell us a little bit about that?
A nicer exercise the renewal option, the rents will actually go up to 2.711 million from April 5th, 2020 to April 4, 2025. And in the second renewal term, the rent will go up to 3.117 million from April 5th, 2025 to August 31st, 2028.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that again? You said it goes, so the rent's going to double starting when, and it goes from when to when?
So the rent for the first renewal period, which goes from April 5th, 2020 to April 4, 2025, is 2.711 million. And the second renewal period starts from April 5th, 2025 to August 31st, 2028. The rent is 3.117 million per year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, the rent's doubling on April 5th, 2020, so it's going to go from $26 to $52 a square foot. Is there anything else you could tell us about the economic terms of this lease? Does the city pay for separate for utilities? Are there any other charges associated with the lease?
Oh, this is all inclusive. No.
I'm just curious as to why the rent is literally doubling and then tripling. And what happens if, we wanted the occupant nices to stay, but we had issue with the amount of rent that they have to pay? Because it's going from 26 to 52, then to 88.
Yeah, I believe that the rent that we are seeing right now is based on the fair market value that, like, when the lease first signed, which is like 20 years ago. I'm sure like right now we are in the process of like doing appraisal, and I'm sure like it's not surprising the rents on a per square foot will be much higher than this.
Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15. Now, this is just for those two floors, the 20th and 21st floor.
Mm-hmm.
And the rent by 2025 is 3.117 million?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jack from Councilmember Deutsch's office. The city's also renting renting more than just 2 floors, correct?
Yeah, the city is supposed to renting like the entire 14th floor for the Brooklyn District Attorney Office, but they only took like 12 out of the 14 floors.
So just to clarify, the lease that we're talking about, right, that has to be matched with the dates.
Yeah.
It also includes the lease that the current Brooklyn DA's office has, or is that not included?
It's not included.
So it's just NICERS, right?
Just like the nicer sublease with like the sublease between the city and Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza.
So is the DA's office lease also up for renewal?
No, the DA office lease doesn't expire until August 31st, 2028.
20 what?
August 31st, 2028.
Okay. Thank you.
How much a square foot does the DA's office pay?
Just as a point of clarification, the EDC only has a sublease for those 2 floors. The city, via DCAS, I'm sure, manages the others. So that's why we're only talking about the NICERS lease, because that's the only space that EDC actually manages on behalf of the city. The rest of it is DCAS.
Excuse me, I just have one question. Maybe you said it and I just didn't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Who actually owns this?
You mean the space or the
The
land?
space that we're renting.
The space currently owned by the Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza, which is our grand tenant.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
I have a question. So you said that, Ricky, you said that DCAS manages the other spaces. So the building isn't a city-owned building, but DCAS manages the building, the spaces. I don't understand, how does that work?
Yeah, so my understanding, and Jin will correct me if I'm wrong, is when the Renaissance Plaza was first developed, they divided they got a ground lease, and then they divided it into a bunch of different units. The city only took some of those units, the other units being the hotel, the garage, the other things that we wouldn't manage. So does the city manage all of the office space, or just those floors?
Yeah, the city is only managing the space lease on those 14 floors.
So how much does the city pay Renaissance for the space that they're managing?
It's prorated, so it's like when you do the math, it's like roughly the city is currently paying 12.138 million per year for the entire 12 floors.
Okay, but how much is the city paying for the EDC floors, for the nicer floors? Nice is paying 26 per square foot. How much money is the city paying Renaissance per square foot? I'm just curious.
Oh, no, the number that I just mentioned earlier is only referring to the rent that the Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza paying to the city.
Okay, I'm confused now. So Brooklyn Renaissance pays the city?
Brooklyn Renaissance pays to the city on the sublease, but then the city pay Brooklyn Renaissance under the master lease for the entire 12 floors.
Okay, so how much money is the city paying Brooklyn Renaissance for the master lease?
For the master lease. So currently they are paying for 12.13 million per year to Brooklyn Renaissance Plaza.
Richard Flattall, Community Board 3 again. I heard you say a few minutes ago that there was no separate charge for utilities. That's a very unusual arrangement for office space. So you're saying that there's no metering or sub-metering for the electric?
I think they do, but we don't have this number. So the number that I'm referring to is just the base rent, just to clarify.
Okay, so is the city's paying a separate charge for utilities? Because before you said there was no separate charge, but that's very unusual. So can you clarify whether there is a separate charge for electric or not? Because that could probably be, another substantial cost.
Yeah, we don't have that information in front of us, but can get it to you between now and July 10th.
Do we have any other questions? Okay, so that would conclude our business with the nicest lease. So now we're going to ask the second presenter to come forward.
Yeah, so in a minute, Stacy's going to come up and talk to you about a property that EDC manages on behalf of the city it's in Brownsville. It's called the East New York Industrial Building. This is a building that, again, DCAS owns. EDC manages via master lease on behalf of the city. Stacy's going to give you a little bit of the background and talk to you about why we would like to renew the lease with DCAS.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight and listening to our project. And I'm Stacy Yan, and I'm here representing New York City Economic Development Corporation. And we're here tonight to have your approval for us to entering a master lease for East New York Industrial Building from the city and to New York City LDC, then further assigned from LDC to EDC. And so we will start with a brief project overview, then we'll move to the lease terms overview, a little brief comparison between the current master lease and the new lease we're about to enter. And then we'll move on to the public benefits and what our project could potentially bring to the community. And also, at the end, we'll address any of the answers you guys have. So our project is at 191 to 101 Powell Street, Brooklyn, New York, in the Bronxville neighborhood. And it's a very convenient location. It's 5 minutes walk from Sutter Avenue, L train. And it's close to a few highways. It's grants any potential tenants want to lease here great access to go anywhere very easily. And about the site, its interior is 30,000 square foot, evenly divided into 5 units. Each unit is 5,000 square foot. And attached to it, each unit gets also another 5,000 foot parking lot. And it has roll-up doors, so the truck can drive directly into the space and load or unload any goods or product for distributions for other purposes. And it's 20-foot ceiling height. It's developed by EDC back in 1992. So the building itself is 25 years old now. And the current use of the building is for job-intensive industrial and commercial use, and we're going to continue this use for the new master lease we're going to enter into. And a brief comparison about the lease terms. The current master lease was entered into August 17th, 1993. So it's going to expire this coming August 17th, 2018. So we want to enter another 30 years master lease with the city. And that master lease will start this August and last for 30 years, about 20 years the initial term, and with another 10 years options to renew the lease. And the rent will be $1 per year for both the initial and the renewal term. And like I described at the very beginning, the structure will be from the city to LDC, then to EDC. So after the commencement date of this new master lease, we plan to spend $6 million to completely renovate inside and outside of this industrial facility. And that includes the roof, a brand new roof, and a brand new panel, and redo the parking lot surface, and add a new, more secure fence to the building. And this will also increase the efficiency and save energy to the tenants inside of the building. And we plan to hire local business to conduct the construction. And the construction manager we are going to hire is a Brooklyn business, and they're MWBE. And the subcontractor we're going to hire require 35% MWBE as well. And after the construction phase is over, and we plan to, during the construction phase, we plan to remain the current high job density tenants in the building. And for the empty space, we plan to tenant with new job density tenants that could benefit with the convenience of this location. And our job target is 1 job, each 500 square foot, and for our size, that's 60 jobs. And so to summarize, and we believe through the construction and also through leasing, we're going to generate both additional tax revenue and also additional jobs to the local community. And we're really looking forward to having your approval July 10th. And so once the new master lease commenced, we'll start the construction. Okay, any questions?
Jack Pleshnik, Councilmember Deutsch's office. So who currently rents the property?
We currently have a few tenants, and one of the tenants meet the job requirements, so we're going to keep them, and the rest of the tenants are going to move out end of August, before the construction phase starts.
So who's the tenant that's going to be renting after August?
It's not yet finalized, so I don't want to put their name out there, but once the lease is signed, we'll be sure to let you guys know.
So assuming that's finalized, the units that are going to be vacated, do you have people that are interested or businesses interested in renting them?
We haven't started marketing yet. I think we're going to be looking to do that once construction starts.
And how much is the revenue? I mean, you're saying $1, who's paying $1 a year? Is that the businesses?
EDC is paying $1 a year to the city, and that's the $1.
So how much are the business paying to EDC?
Yeah, it'll all be based on
the market price when the construction is over.
So a rough estimate of how much a year the city's making or EDC is making from this?
I don't think this is going to be a
Rick,
property.
do me a favor. Could you speak into the mic? Because
Absolutely.
Dawn can't hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, a rough estimate I'm looking for the yearly income that the EDC would be making from the leases.
Given the $6 million in capital investments that are being made, it's going to be a while. I think we'll be lucky to break even in the short term. It'll be a while before we make any substantial revenue off of this, any profit.
So how long is the construction phase then?
The construction phase will be 9 months.
Okay.
And we target to start this October, and we'll finish sometime next year. Then we're going to start to lease up the empty space.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Janice Morgan, Community Board 16. So it was my understanding that that more than one tenant was going to be still staying in the property. So what has changed since that last update to now?
It may still be the case that 2 tenants end up staying. We had one tenant that, from the very beginning had indicated that they wanted to be there, and one that at some point told us they didn't want to stay, and then they came back to us recently and told us they do want to stay. So we're at the very beginning of a lease negotiation process with them, so it's just going to take a little bit more time with them. But to the extent that they want to be there and we can work a deal out, we're willing to do that.
Right. And what was the rent for the current tenants?
So most of the current tenants are currently on a month-to-month. Their leases had expired quite a while ago, and so there was no increase for I don't know how many years. So they were paying well below market, about $550 a square foot, something like that.
Okay. And when you say that the price is going to increase relative to the market, you're talking about based on manufacturing spaces, which is normally substantially lower than retail.
So our most recent appraisals for industrial space in that area are $1,250. Right now, before construction, $1,250 a foot. After construction, they think $1,650 a foot.
Okay. Thank you.
Richard?
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about what the financial performance has been for that industrial park over the last several years? Like, has the city ever made any net operating income? Have we lost money? Can you You have any information you could share about that?
You're referring to specifically the site or in general?
I'm talking about the industrial park. Can you tell us a little bit about the financial performance over the last several years there?
The city has entered into East New York Industrial Business Zone Update Plan, like back in 2016, and the city is spending money in the building.
Okay. Has there been any operating income? Have we been losing money? Can you tell us a little bit about the financial performance
For
of the
specifically,
industrial park?
sorry to
For
cut
that
you.
facility, yes.
Okay. We were generating income this past years that we've been managing this facility. And for a dollar amount, I believe we're generating around 200,000 historically. Like,
Okay.
is that answer to your question?
Yeah, I guess. So you're saying the city, we had a net operating income of about 200,000 a year at that facility?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And
We have operating expenses as well.
I'm saying, what was the net operating income for the facility? So that's revenue minus expenses.
Correct. That's
Right.
the number, around 200,000.
Okay, so we were
Pre-renovation.
clearing about 200,000 a year.
Correct.
Okay.
Please state your name and your board.
Again, Joy Simmons from Councilmember
Joy.
Inez Barron's office. So I just want to give a little, I guess, history from our perspective. It says on the first page that it's in District 41, but that is not accurate. It's in our district, Councilmember Barron, District 42. We have been in communication with two of the tenants that are in that have been there for many, many, many years. They are MWBE, at least two of them, tenants. They've been in the community through thick and thin. They've, one in particular hires from the neighborhood, hires from the community, and provides, substantial employment. So when they came to us out of concern about the renovation and being pushed out, our office was able to meet with EDC to make sure that all of the tenants who were there were respected who wanted to stay. And so two of Thanks. Two did want to stay, and I just want, we just, do want to thank EDC because one of them, they was complaining, the rent is going to go up, it's going to be too high, but EDC did make some, work around making it affordable so that those businesses could stay there, and also EDC could also get, whatever revenue that they needed to kind of keep it going and for the renovations to go on. So we, do want to continue, working with that, and we do want to make sure that that the RFPs that are put out are fair so that everyone has an opportunity in order to have a chance there. And we do want to make sure that the new tenants come in are going to provide jobs and are going to be an incubator, hopefully, for businesses, maybe some kind of cooperative. We've put forth that idea, like a worker cooperative, and some kind of green initiative. So we've put forth some ideas, and we hope that that can be incorporated. So thank you for that, and we are going to, go forward and hopefully make this a very good program for the city and our neighborhood.
Any more questions? Yes.
Cesar Zuniga, Community Board 7. Does the renovation change the usage at all?
No.
No, it's the same usage. We're industrial and commercial, and we keep that usage.
And so then, I presume then there is no need for an environmental impact study of any kind, correct?
We did a type 2 memo, yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about some of the findings?
because, because the usage continued, and it had been a tendency, it had been an industrial building, it had been one where there were tenants in it, it constitutes a continuation, and under the law, that constitutes a type 2, and therefore there didn't need to be a whole new environmental impact statement, a whole new environmental study, because a continuation of similar use.
Okay, I'm sorry, but you said it didn't require a whole entire, but it required some?
No,
None.
Actually,
Okay.
it goes right through.
That's fine, okay.
Okay, next question.
I just have
No,
a question.
state your name and your
Janice
board.
Morgan, CB16. With regard to the utilities, the tenants are responsible for all of their utilities. What other costs are associated with the lease?
They are covering the utilities, and they are covering the repairs of their own space. And I think that's the two major things.
Okay, and the property is tax exempt to the tenants?
Correct.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions?
Is there any possibility for solar panels that might be able to help, being it is a long, flat top, that could help offset electricity costs?
I think that wasn't part of the $6 million capital commitment we got, but maybe in future rounds of investment. I mean, if you guys would like to invest.
I have a question. The statement was made that the person that's going to do the renovation will be from the community and it's MWBE. Was that RFP'd? And how did you decide? How was it, determined who would do the actual renovation?
So I'm not actually sure if Armand is based in Brooklyn, but they are an MWB. It's the Armand Corporation who's the construction manager.
Wait a minute, say that again, it's fast.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Armand Corporation is the construction manager for this project. Again, I'm not sure they're based in Brooklyn, but they are a black woman-owned business. We have 5 firms on retainer. Is that right? They're one of the 5 firms that we have on retainer for this type of work. It did go through an RFP, but...
Oh, initially, and then you came up with the 5 firms.
Yeah.
So the 5 firms that you have on retainer, you chose Armand, I guess that's the name of the firm.
Yes.
And they are going to hire people from the community, that's part of the deal?
Yeah, they have local hire provisions written into the scope of the work in the contract, and also they have a pretty good track record. We'll make sure that they stay connected through both Joy and Janice and kind of whoever else, that we're making sure that we advertise whatever openings there are for folks in the community.
Do we have any other questions? Yes. Go.
Josh Levin, Brooklyn Borough President's Office and EDC board member. I have a question pertaining to the jobs numbers. You had stated that it's about 60 jobs with 1 per 500 square foot, yet you're planning to market to commercial and talking about incubators. I'm sort of wondering, what sort of businesses existing in that industry would you expect to occupy the space, especially in this IBC?
We don't have target industries, but we do believe there are potential tenants that can take advantage of the location. They can meet that job density, especially after we upgrade the overall of the building quality, and that's where we believe the market is.
So 60 jobs and 1 per 500 square feet is a baseline?
That's our target.
Okay.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, so I would say it's a baseline. We want at least that number.
Thank you.
Richard Flato, Community Board 3 again. I just did some quick math. You said the average rent was $550 a square foot. So even if the facility was 100% occupied, that's only $167,000 a year. So there's no way facility could have netted $200,000 a year because you have expenses. I would assume there's some expenses. So I'd be interested in knowing what the real financials were, since EDC manages that facility. If you can give us some idea what the net operating income is for that, or has been for that facility over the last few years.
Okay, my answer could be mistaken, and I have your way of contact, and we'll send that to you the accurate numbers after this meeting.
Yes, Melinda Perkins, Community Board 5. Just a quick question. I don't have a microphone. I'll speak loudly. As it relates to the local hiring, thank you so much. As it relates to the local hiring, how can we get a report on our current industrial zones and what that local hiring number is? Because we don't get clear messages from the organizations that are running them. And it seems as though the hiring is, the local hiring number is much lower than what's actually publicly stated. And we want to ensure that out of the 60, or let me just ask, what is the percentage that you're going for local hires out of that 60?
I don't have the target in front of me, and I know this is part of a longer conversation we've been having. We can get back to you on that one. I think it is important to us, and we will, I don't know that we have a target. I'll find out what it is and get back to you, but it's one of the main reasons we want to continue to manage the property is we do want to make sure that whoever comes in knows that that's a priority for us.
And just for the record, what are the current businesses that are inside of the building?
So right now there's, off the top of my head, TransUnion Transport, Calypso Food Distribution, Brooklyn Distillery, and Dean's Wiping Cloth, I think are the 4 tenants. So 2 of them take up 2 units each, which is why we only have, sorry.
Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15. First of all, your numbers are not adding up at all, okay? You said that you've got these millions of dollars on a grant. Where is the construction money coming from?
So there was a capital commitment made as part of the East New York industrial plan.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
So that money was allocated. You're going to renovate the building, throw out the people that are there, hopefully bring back 2 of them, and hopefully re-rent the rest of the space.
The people who are leaving are doing so willingly. The people who have indicated that they want to stay, we've worked with them to make sure that they can.
And you are going to bring the rents up to market value?
That is our obligation on behalf of the city, is to seek market value, but we do have policy goals that allow us to incorporate discounts and, on top of that. So the people
Discounts?
Yes.
We have a structure, and like if they meet the job target and we give them discount, it needs to be fair across the board. But we are working very hard for our current tenants, and if they meet the job goals and all those, we try everything we can to keep them in our facility. So, like, hope that answered your question.
Not really. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Yes.
So just
No,
really
no,
quick.
no. Name.
Yeah,
board.
Jack from Councilmember Deutsch's office. So currently, does the property need these renovations? Is there issues with the warehouses and the facilities that, that require that the roof get redone and that there's a fence being put up?
Yeah, definitely. The parking lot, for example, is not fully at grade. There's a bunch of dips and potholes and a bunch of stuff throughout the parking lot. The roof is in need of repairs. We're putting in a whole new HVAC, better ventilation, replacing the fire system, new sprinklers.
Because from what I understand, it sounds like this would also, from what it sounds like, the initial reason why this grant and the reason why you're putting the money into the building sounded like it's because you want to increase the rent and you want to get a little bit more money per square foot. Is that correct? Or
I would dispute the premise there. I would say our main goals here are to activate, one of the city's few assets in the East New York Industrial Park. And we do want it. It is a public asset. It should be generating revenue for the city. That probably won't be realized for some time, which is why the additional goals of making sure that we have, job dense uses and target industries that, have an opportunity to grow and add to the value of the industrial park as a whole. So I'd say it's kind of a multifaceted commitment to make sure that we're activating the space.
And also just to clarify, because earlier you said you were saying specifically this unit, this whole entire building is industrial and commercial, right? There isn't anything else, right? Or is there other units that are not industrial commercial?
No, it's all currently industrial commercial.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? So I just want to remind you that At the next Borough Board meeting, both issues will require a vote, so I want to strongly encourage you to please come and timely so that we will be prepared to vote. And you should discuss amongst yourselves, you know, how you would like to vote.
And if there's any additional information you need, I have cards. I can give you my contact information. Thank you all.
All right, so that concludes our business related to the New York City Economic Development Corporation. We thank you.
I just have a question regarding the vote.
Okay.
Does the entire board vote, or does the respective boards, community boards vote?
I think it's the community boards. I'm not sure, but I'll check with Andrew.
Okay.
Before we do any votes, he always goes over it with a fine-tooth comb with me, and so does Richard Berrick.
Okay.
All right? So, you know. And if you need to know in advance, Keisha will email you and let you know. All right? But we still want you to come anyway. So, we gave out some packets today because we have a couple of events coming up at Brooklyn Borough Hall. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware. We have our Central Brooklyn Arts and Culture Walk. Please take that information back to your communities. We hope that you will come and you will join with us, especially Boards 8 and Board 9. Board is Board 8 and it's in Board 9. And it's a really great event. We'll be honoring a Brooklyn rap legend called Big Daddy Kane. So some of the young kids and some of the old people like myself, you know, he'll be there. He doesn't know it, but he's going to perform. So we want you to, you know, join with us. Do we have any new business? Do we have any new business? No new business? Okay. So may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Wait, who's making the motion?
Richard Flatow, Community Board 3.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15, second motion.
Thank you. All of those in favor? Aye. All of those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.